Will he stay or will he go? The wolves are veritably circling around Keir Starmer as we speak. But the big question is, will more MPs from Labour come out and support him, or will they show their hand and ask for him to go? Let's bring on Michael Blackley and Graham Grant. The big story of the day so far is Keir Starmer. It's been building for a long time. We've known for weeks now that this was a possibility after the local elections if Labour were drowned out significantly, which they were. Now Keir Starmer is very much holding his ground. He doesn't want to go. It's fascinating to see this play out. There's been a cabinet meeting this morning, and Michael, what's your take on what's happened so far?
Yeah, well, it seems pretty incredible. There's no massive surprise that the election results have maybe been a trigger for things to start moving in the background. People to start to make their move, start to look to force Starmer out. But it seems from the cabinet meeting that happened today that he's very much saying that he doesn't want to go anywhere. He wants to stick it out. Whether that's actually going to be something that a position that he can hold is pretty doubtful. I think he's going to go at some point. When that is, it's simply a case of whether it's today, this week, next week. It's going to happen pretty soon, I think.
Graham, it's a difficult one for Keir Starmer. He might go out there, and say, I'm going nowhere. But ultimately, if you've got 80 Labour MPs plus saying, we think you should go, then how do you possibly have a government? Because you've got a government in place, therefore, that does not support the leader.
Yes. Is he going to nail the doors of Downing Street shut and just cling on to his desk by his fingertips? It's like a war of attrition that's being fought. With Boris Johnson, what we saw was mass resignations, which forced his hand. And as he said, when the herd starts moving, you just have to get out of the way. There's nothing you can do. Starmer's view is, well, there isn't the formal mechanism for removing a leader has not been triggered. So therefore he doesn't have to react. He doesn't have to do anything. I think when you've made the sacrifices that these people make to get to these jobs, in his case with a huge landslide majority, it must be incredibly daunting to relinquish it. So there's a psychological factor there as well. I think it may come down to mass resignations, and then the machinery of government just grinds to a halt, and at that point his hand will be forced. But for now, as Michael says, he seems to be determined to stay, clinging onto his desk.
There's clearly been a lot going on in the background, and it would be naive to say that hadn't been going on for quite some time. Big push to try and get Andy Burnham a position so that he can possibly contest the leadership. But that's a difficult one. Not only would he need a by-election, but he would need to win. And that at the moment, Michael, is also now, given what we've seen from the rise of reform, that's not guaranteed.
Yeah, who would put any money on Labour winning any sort of election at the moment? Things are pretty dire, and I don't think they'd have any great confidence of winning a by-election if it came up. It does. Andy Burnham is talked about, Wes Streeting is talked about. There's been the suggestion of Angela Rayner being on manoeuvres. So people are there. They're making their moves. They're testing things out. And I think we saw the first junior minister resign today. So I think that was a further indication that things are moving in the background. People are starting to make their move. So those three figures are certainly the three that people's eyes are on the most at this stage. And there's just a lot of danger facing Starmer. But for him to have actually reached the decision that yes, he's going to cling on for now, he must think he has a chance. He must think that the moves, nobody will step up that move at this stage. So he must have some kind of confidence in order to be doing that. I thought it was a pretty incredible situation as well this morning when normally after a cabinet meeting, people leave Downing Street and ignore questions being shouted at them. Whereas this morning, each minister was going over and speaking to the broadcasters that were there. They had obviously been sent out to try and shore up the position, to try and get across the Prime Minister's message. So they're desperately trying to cling on, it certainly seems at this stage.
Graham, can he cling on though? I mean, can he do this? Because, you know, as I pointed out earlier, you've got a number of people who clearly don't want him in the job. By the time this goes out, there'll probably be a few more, who knows. But it's a very difficult position when it's not just about the MPs here, it's also about the electorate. And fundamentally, you only need to put on the radio, you only need to look at social media, you only need to look at the polls to actually see what people in the UK are thinking about the current Prime Minister and indeed the Labour government. And there is a certain amount of thought, I think, out there that actually Keir Starmer, to a certain degree, is he really putting the country first here, or is he putting himself and his position first? And ultimately, that's never going to win you votes at a time that is crucial for Labour when it comes to getting the support and backing of the country.
Yeah, I think he certainly isn't thinking about the country, and he needs to step back and take more of an overview. I think he's also being possibly very badly advised, as he has been throughout. The interesting thing about Starmer is that he has made no secret of the fact that he is not a fan of politics in its purest form, strategizing, and seems to lack political antennae and political nous, which is one of the great contradictions, because, you know, he secured this landslide victory, of this landslide as it was called. So has always been that contradiction. And he seems very tin-eared, which is part of the reason that he's in this predicament now. So I think he's been badly advised, but I think he also just lacks any kind of strategic antennae, and he's perhaps a bunker mentality is developing. He can brazen this out. It'd also be interesting to find out what Gordon Brown has been telling him, who's now been brought back into the fold, along with Harriet Harman, these figures from the kind of not distant past, but it does feel like it. They've been disinterred and brought back into the fold. It's not entirely clear what he felt he could achieve by doing that, perhaps bolstering his gravitas and credibility. And I suspect they will be. Gordon Brown was famously accused of squatting in Downing Street at the time of the 2010 election, when he was desperately trying to cobble together an alliance to stay in power. So perhaps Gordon Brown is telling Keir Starmer to stay put. But someone needs to tell him that the game is up, I think, and it's time to move on. He certainly isn't putting the country first.
But has he been a poor Prime Minister? I keep hearing all over the political spectrum people saying how nice a guy he is, but he's just a terrible politician.
It has been. I mean, the domestic policy has been atrocious, you know. So yes, this is somebody who comes across as an individual that might be a decent performer on the world stage, that he puts himself across well. He seemed to deal with things like the difficult talks with Donald Trump relatively well, and came out fairly unscathed from that. So he did all right at that side of thing, but domestically he has been abysmal. Misstep after misstep, policy after policy, where you look at it and think, what on earth were they thinking? You know, this more so than even Partygate, just seems like a situation where a Prime Minister has gone from a massively strong position with a huge mandate and just completely messed it up, and ended up clinging on to Downing Street by their fingernails from such a high in the general election not that long ago.
And what I find quite staggering as well is that for all the negativity and, sort of back chat in the corridors of Westminster, there is an incredible amount of inertia, it seems, to really make a move on this from some senior members of the cabinet. Do you think that actually some of this might be down to fears of a general election, that maybe is stopping some people making a move here?
I think it's all about trying to get the timing right, isn't it? It's I don't know if they're necessarily concerned that they would immediately have to call a general election, because the precedent in the past has been that a change of prime minister doesn't necessarily result in a general election. So I don't think that's necessarily the biggest fear. I think the biggest fear is just that they get their timing right. That maybe Labour has hit rock bottom before they take over. So I don't think somebody wants to go in and immediately see things deteriorate right away under their leadership, and then they become a bit of a lame duck prime minister themselves.